Pierre-Luc Dubois is an LA King and locked up long-term. Will he be a difference maker? Did the Kings pay too high a price? That's next on this edition of Locked on LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked on LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked on LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we're also on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked on LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for almost 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 16 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for 30 years. Coming up on today's show, we're going to take a look at the LA Kings projected lineup for this coming season. We're going to talk about what the next moves will be for the Kings and discuss the Kings regular season schedule, which was released earlier today. But first, we begin, of course, with the blockbuster trade that we had heard so much about over the weekend being finalized. The LA Kings have acquired center Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for forwards Gabe Vilardi, Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kupari, and a second-round pick in 2024. Wow, okay. Just to start off, regardless if you love this trade, hate this trade, or don't know how to feel about this trade, I have to say I'm excited about it. I'm excited because, again, General Manager Rob Blake is continuing to be bold. I want a GM that isn't afraid to make tough decisions and try to make the team better. He did it with Jonathan Quick, and he's doing it now. And there are plenty of people that are going to criticize him for this, but that comes with the job. Again, I would rather have a general manager who's willing to put himself out there, put his job on the line potentially, make bold moves in an attempt to make the team better. I know when he said in his exit interview something to the effect of he wished he could just kind of run this team back out for next season. And my reaction to that was no. I think we've proven over the last 2 years that this group, while maybe close, is not there yet. And some things need to be changed and moved around. And we're doing that for better or for worse. We'll see how it turns out. But I like the fact that the Kings are being proactive. The Pacific Division, which people have criticized for quite a while as being a terrible division, is not terrible anymore. The defending Stanley Cup champs and the Vegas Golden Knights are in our division. The Edmonton Oilers, who have beaten us 2 times in a row in the playoffs, are in our division. And the Seattle Kraken, frankly, that look to be getting better going forward, are in our division. So staying stagnant and just being happy with what we've had so far, to me, isn't the right formula. Will these drastic changes bring the formula and the group necessary to get us deep in the playoffs to contend for a Stanley Cup? We shall see. But again, I personally want a GM that's going to be bold, and I think Rob Blake so far has shown he's willing to be bold. How it plays out remains to be seen. As for what the Kings are getting in Pierre-Luc Dubois, he is a young, productive, solid second-line center to solidify the team down the middle, along with Anze Kopitar and Phillip Danault. The Kings are now one of the deepest teams at center in the NHL, adding Pierre-Luc Dubois. He is a former 3rd overall pick in 2016. He just turned 25 this weekend, but already has had 6 productive NHL seasons. In 434 career NHL games, he's got 129 goals, 173 assists for 302 points. He's been close to 30-goal scorer 3 times in his career, including the past 2 seasons where he posted 28 and 27 goals. And he's been over 60 points 3 times in his career, including the past 2 seasons when he put up 60 and 61 points. So why did the Winnipeg Jets trade a young, productive player? Well, Pierre-Luc Dubois didn't want to play in Winnipeg, and that's the concern with him. Now, he's on his 3rd NHL team in 6 seasons. He was drafted by Columbus, apparently didn't want to play there. Some people could say, don't blame you. He was traded to Winnipeg, and he told the Jets, I'm not going to resign here. And so obviously they needed to deal him. They didn't want to let him walk after this season for nothing. Now, he is from Quebec, and he has always said he's had a desire to play for his home team in Montreal. A lot of players say those types of things. Maybe it's gotten blown out of proportion. Maybe it hasn't. We'll hear from Pierre-Luc Dubois himself in a few minutes because he did have an interview with the LA media just a little while ago. But the question is, does he want to be an LA King? Well, we'll hear what he had to say. Dubois agrees on an 8-year extension. It's a sign and trade deal. Multiple reports saying he's going to make $8.5 million per season on average. He's locked up through the 2030-31 season. Now, if you follow pro sports, you know that obviously money can make a player happy. It's important, obviously, for a professional athlete to be secure for his future and to know where he's going to play foreseeably for the future. But it doesn't guarantee happiness. That said, the Kings have committed to Pierre-Luc Dubois long-term, and he's going to play on a good team that has made the playoffs 2 years in a row and looks to be trending in the right direction. There's a lot of reasons for Pierre-Luc Dubois to be happy to be in Los Angeles. While he maybe wasn't all that happy in Columbus or Winnipeg, it didn't affect his numbers. He was still a very productive player despite allegedly being disgruntled. Now, for those of you that felt the need for the Kings to get bigger and tougher, Pierre-Luc Dubois is 6'4", 215 pounds, can play with a little bit of an edge, not afraid to go to the net. Friend of the show, Zach Dooley, I saw, the Kings insider, tweeted out that Dubois is one of 5 players to have over 100 points and over 180 penalty minutes over the last 2 seasons. As far as the contract goes for Pierre-Luc Dubois, I've got no issue with it. $8.5 million per season is certainly a pretty big number. But in terms of how the salary cap is going to go up over the years, we certainly think 8 years certainly is a long time. But I think in time that average annual value in that contract will be okay. He just turned 25. Literally just turned 25, and he's in the prime years of his career throughout this contract. The deal reportedly includes a no movement clause in the first 5 years of the deal with a modified no trade clause in the final 3 years. So we know if you're going to get something good in return, it's usually, you got to have to give something up as well. And that's always tough for fans. And I get that. So what did the Kings give up? Well, the main piece going to Winnipeg is Gabe Vilardi, former first-round pick of the Kings, 11th overall in 2017. He is a year younger than Pierre-Luc Dubois, but he has yet to put up the same numbers. He's coming off his best season as a pro, 23 goals, 41 points in 152 career games. He's got 37 goals and 78 points. Now, he has had injury issues in the past. I think that is part of the reason why the Kings maybe paused a bit as far as committing to him long-term. While it appears Vilardi could have a bright future, if you look at his ceiling, to me, I think it's probably similar to the numbers that Pierre-Luc Dubois has been putting up now, 30 goals and 60 points. Now, if he stays healthy and he proves that last season was a preview of things to come, then obviously the Winnipeg Jets are getting a pretty good player. As far as Alex Iafallo, played his entire 6-year career in LA after signing with the Kings after being undrafted, 420 career NHL games. He has a total of 85 goals with 204 points. He gives you around 15 goals and 35 points per season as a third-line player. Killed penalties. Look, good teammate, good, solid, all-around NHL player. I like Alex Iafallo a lot. Does a lot of intangibles, but he's not a guy who is irreplaceable, certainly as far as his numbers go, strictly from that standpoint. And then you got Rasmus Kupari, 23 years old, former first-round pick, 20th overall in 2018. He's seen time with the Kings in their bottom 6 over the last 2 seasons. In 130 career NHL games, he has 9 goals and 29 points. And the Kings gave up a second-round pick in 2024. That was the pick they just got in the Sean Durzi trade with Arizona. So the initial reaction I have seen from some NHL fans on social media is the Kings got fleeced. Twitter is a place to overreact. I think that's an overreaction, to be honest, but I get it. On the surface, you see 3 players and a pick going one way and 1 player going the other way. Seems like a lopsided trade. Just remember the Kings had to clear out cap space to be able to sign Pierre-Luc Dubois. So the Kings had to include multiple pieces in a trade. And I know people love to declare winners and losers as far as initial reactions, and I get that. That's fine. It's part of the fun. But the reality is, I think the best deals that you make are deals that help both teams, that work out for both sides. And I think this has the potential to do that because you want to do business with these people in the future. I know that fans like to say, let's win this trade. And, I get that. But the best trades, again, are when both sides win. And I think this really has a chance to be that because of where the two teams are heading right now. You've got an LA Kings team that is looking for a more established NHL player now and for the future because they're looking to win now and in the immediate future. And then you've got a Winnipeg Jets team that is looking to rebuild and retool and get pieces for the future that could develop into good players. And that's basically what the Jets are getting. Now, if Gabe Vilardi turns into an elite player, if he becomes a 40-goal scorer and scores 70, 80 points a year, then obviously the Jets will have won this trade. But that remains to be seen. He hasn't done it yet. Could he do it going forward? I'm a little skeptical as far as those numbers go, but I think he could be a very, very good NHL player. I think he's probably a 30-goal, 60-point type of guy. I think that's probably his ceiling. Alex Iafallo is going to be a contributor right away, but he's going to do a lot of the things that maybe don't show up on the stat sheet. But again, his numbers, strictly from a numbers standpoint, you can find someone to score 15 goals and put up 30 points a season. I think Rasmus Kupari is kind of a wild card on all this. If he turns into a top six forward, then I think the Jets would have won this trade as well if you want to declare a winner and a loser. My final take on the deal, though, I think the Kings are looking to win now, and they're looking to be better now. Now, the Jets have the potential to be better down the line as they're looking to retool that roster, rebuild, if you want to call it that. But to me, right now, I think it's a win for both teams based on what they're looking for now and in the near future. Coming up, what did Pierre-Luc Dubois have to say about becoming an LA King? And we'll share that as well as what the Kings lineup may look like for next season. That's next on Locked on LA Kings, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked on LA Kings brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets for your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theaters near you. With the Gametime app, tickets are easy to find and buy for every kind of event in your area, and you get the lowest price guaranteed with event cancellation protection. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, he said. And the Gametime guarantee means that you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. They're sent directly to your phone. You never have to dig through your emails for it. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, before we get into the Kings' projected lineup for next season, just before I started to record this episode, the LA Kings made available Pierre-Luc Dubois in a conference call with the media, and we were able to hear directly from the newest LA King. And I guess not surprisingly, he said all the right things and seemed very excited about joining the LA Kings, using words like thrilled and excited. He said that he always wanted to play for a team that could win a Stanley Cup, and he felt like the LA Kings were that kind of team. He also touched on the reports surrounding him that he was unhappy in Winnipeg and that it talked about joining the Montreal Canadiens. He said his mom had even called him to ask him what was going on and was he going to go to Montreal, those kinds of things. He indicated that he felt a lot of it was blown out of proportion. Social media, grabs things and runs with it. And he was saying that it wasn't quite what it has been billed to be. So take that for what it's worth. He did say he was excited to play with another French-Canadian player like Philippe Deneau, who he has never played with, but he knows of and has heard good things about. And I think the comments I liked the best were he was asked about joining Vladislav Gavrikov, who was a former teammate of his in Columbus. And he said that he was excited to play with him again, that Gavrikov had reached out to him and told him that you are going to love LA, which I thought was great to hear from Gavrikov, who obviously in his short time here in Los Angeles has really enjoyed his time with the Kings, has enjoyed the city, and told Pierre-Luc Dubois, you're going to love it here. So he seemed genuinely excited about the opportunity to join the LA Kings. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to his attitude and his work ethic. And like I said, even if those reports were true that he was disgruntled, it never showed in his production. So while he may or may not be happy on or off the ice, it never showed in his game. He never pouted. He never took it to where it affected his performance. So again, sounds like he's very excited to be an LA King. I get that players in this type of situation are going to say all the right things, but again, all I can do is judge by what I saw, and I thought Pierre-Luc Dubois genuinely seemed excited to be an LA King, to get the big contract and to have his future secured for many years down the road. So hopefully that will be the case. All right, so what does the Kings lineup look like now? And again, I stress now because things can obviously change. And we know who our centers are going to be, at least the top three centers down the middle: Anze Kopitar, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Philippe Deneau. And I would guess, as it stands now, that Blake Lizotte would be the fourth line center. With Kupari gone, that puts Lizotte back where he belongs as the fourth line center, an energy guy. That's his best role. He played some third line center last year, and just that didn't seem to suit him to me. That's a great group of centers, especially the top three. The Dubois addition also indicates to me that Quinton Byfield is going to stay on the wing for the immediate future. For your wingers in your top six, you can choose from Adrian Kempe, Kevin Fiala, Victor Arvidsson, Trevor Moore, and Quinton Byfield. There's now room for Arthur Kaliev to get more ice time, which you've listened to the show. You know that I have been pushing for. You've also got Carl Grundstrom on the fourth line and a last forward spot on that fourth line to be determined. Perhaps Jared Anderson-Dolan, who is a restricted free agent. Maybe this opens up opportunities for guys like Samuel Fagemo, Alex Turcotte, Alex Laferriere. Obviously, when you trade away three players like the Kings did, it's going to hurt your depth. The Kings are not going to be in as good of a position to plug holes should injuries arise. So that is something to consider when looking at this trade as a whole as well. How will this affect the Kings' special teams? Well, you remove Velarde from the power play and you take Iafallo off the penalty kill. Kupari had seen some time on the PK as well. But Pierre-Luc Dubois will fill in nicely for Gabe Velarde on the power play. Dubois had 15 power play goals season before last. He had 11 power play goals last season. Velarde had 5 on the power play. So Pierre-Luc Dubois should help the Kings power play. I would expect more penalty kill time for guys like Philippe Deneau and Blake Lizotte with Alex Iafallo and Rasmus Kupari departing. As for the rest of the roster, defensively, we know the top two pairings: Drew Doughty and Mikey Anderson, Vladislav Gavrikov and Matt Roy. The third pairing to be determined. I would expect it to be Brandt Clark and Tobias Bjornfoot, but that remains to be seen. In goal, it's Phoenix Copley, and that leads to what is next. The final piece of this eventful offseason is obviously adding another goalie. So how much money do the Kings have left to spend on a goalie? Well, according to capfriendly.com, the Kings have a little over $4.5 million in projected cap space, but I did see a friend of the show, Russell Morgan, had the Kings at just under $2 million in cap space. And I know that Jeff on Twitter had asked me, which is it? And Jeff, I totally appreciate the question. I wish I had an answer. If you saw my math grades in school, you probably know I'm not the right guy to try and figure these things out, unfortunately. Hopefully we get some clarity from those that are more skilled in such an area. But I think regardless of what the actual number is, it's Rob Blake still has work to do, and right now he doesn't have a lot of money to do it. So the Kings clearly need to add a goalie. It seems unlikely that the dealing is done to be able to do that. So adding a goalie, likely the final piece to this puzzle for the 2023-24 LA Kings. So there is still work to do for Rob Blake. He's moved a lot of heaven and earth at this point, but he's not done yet. It has been pretty wild so far, but that final piece is yet to be determined. What are the Kings going to do to add a goalie? That will be in the weeks ahead for Rob Blake and the management of the LA Kings. Coming up, oh, by the way, the Kings captain got an honor, and the 2023-24 regular season schedule has been released. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. This episode of Locked On LA Kings brought to you by FanDuel. Make your way to FanDuel right now with new customers getting a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in a bonus bet if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel has great promotions every day. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use with their app. And when you win, You get paid instantly. There is no better place to bet on all the sports action out there than America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 in a no-sweat first bet. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So the LA Kings 2023-24 regular season schedule is out, and just looking at some of the highlights for the LA Kings briefly, the Kings will open up the regular season at home October 11th against the Colorado Avalanche. Pierre-Luc Dubois will return to Winnipeg in just the third game of the season, October 17th. Kings in Winnipeg to face the Jets. Gabe Vilardi, Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kupari, all expected to be in Jets uniforms as well, so that will be a very interesting game very early in the season. LA will host the defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights on October 28th. Kings' first game against the Ducks is November 24th in Anaheim, and the first game against the Edmonton Oilers not until December the 30th in Los Angeles, and that will be their first meeting since Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs this past season. Want to pass out congratulations to LA Kings captain Anze Kopitar, who won the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy Monday night, given annually to the player who exhibits the best type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high standard of playing ability. The award is voted on by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. Kopi received 1,175 points in the voting. He beat out Jack Hughes of the New Jersey Devils, who got 934 points. Kopitar received 77 first-place votes to Hughes's 41. This is the second Lady Byng win for Kopitar. Also won the award in the 2015-16 season. He was also a finalist in the 2014-15 season as well. Kings captain is the first two-time winner of the award since Martin St. Louis from Tampa Bay did it, and he's one of only 3 active players in the NHL to have been finalists for the trophy 3 or more occasions. Kopitar joins Wayne Gretzky as the only other Kings player in history to win the honor more than once, and he joins Kings players Gretzky, Butch Goring, and Marcel Dion as players who have won the award, period, for the LA Kings. The voting for the Selke Trophy, the award given out to the best defensive forward in the NHL, came out. Kopitar finished 5th in the voting for that award. Boston's Patrice Bergeron ran away with it. He received 1,914 points and 187 first-place votes. Kopitar got 428 points and 2 first-place votes. I think the voting should have been a lot closer than that, but I'm biased. I'm a Kings fan. I would be interested to see where Phoenix Copley finished in the voting for the Masterton Trophy. That's the trophy that is awarded to the player who best exhibits perseverance and dedication to hockey. I thought he should have been a finalist for the award. Chris Letang of Pittsburgh ended up winning that award, but I did not see what the numbers were in the voting for that award. I would like to have known what people across the league thought of Phoenix Copley as a deserving candidate for that award. I did want to mention, before we get into what's coming up on this show for the rest of the week, and it's a busy week for the NHL and for the Kings, we are going to get a special guest on in the near future who covers the Winnipeg Jets to get some real intel on Pierre-Luc Dubois, find out what his time was like there, find out what kind of teammate he was, find out how the fans perceived him, all that kind of stuff. That's coming up in the near future. We may have a guest on next week's show to break down what the Kings did in the NHL draft, which is coming up tomorrow on Wednesday. So that could push that potential interview maybe back to the following week. But I just want to let you know that that's something that I'm going to work on. We are going to get somebody from Winnipeg to give us that side of the story on Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now, for you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch every day, coming up on tomorrow's show, we have draft analyst and Locked On NHL Prospects host Hadi Kalakash. He will join us to break down the NHL draft tomorrow, because tomorrow's the NHL draft. If you didn't know, if you've been focused on all the rumors surrounding the Kings and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And then on Thursday's show, we'll have a full breakdown of all the Kings selections, tell you about the players they picked, where they're from, what their scouting report is on them, so on and so forth. And then, of course, we will have on Friday our fan feedback show. I got to imagine that show will be as jam-packed with comments and questions about what's been going on with the Kings this week than any other show. So go ahead and get those emails in now to make sure you reserve your spot for the Kings fan feedback show coming up on Friday. the trades, the draft, and everything else going on. And speaking of the draft, I do want to remind you to check out Locked On's 2023 NHL Mock Draft Special. The hosts of all the Locked On channels, who have a first-round pick anyway, they give their picks, and then our guy, Hadi Kalakash, breaks it all down. He's going to join us tomorrow, by the way. It's 3 separate shows. They're all about 30 minutes, so definitely worth your time if you want to check out the Locked On 2023 Mock NHL Draft, available on Locked On NHL, the YouTube channel, and wherever you get your podcasts as well. That's Locked On NHL, the mock draft for 2023. Coming up, we mentioned on Friday, we've got the fan feedback show. If you want to send an email for that, you can send it to lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, lockedoneddie@gmail.com. And as always, you can leave your comments on any of the episodes from this week on the YouTube channel if you are watching along on YouTube. And don't forget to stay interactive with the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram. Both those addresses are at Locked On LA Kings. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow when we have our special guest break down the NHL draft. That's coming up then. Until then, as always, go Kings go.